this is going to work, folks, is I'm just giving feedback basis off of like recommendations and what I've seen work well. But at the end of the day, it is your personal statement / insight questions, and you hold the power of deciding if you want to take my suggestions or not. And on top of this, a lot of the style when it comes to essay writing for college applications, you want to be able to give your take and perspective, and especially reflection is what I'm looking for. All right, so let's get started. This is the prompt about your creative side. It can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. All right, an essential element of the human experience must be one's discovery of a way to capture and express the constant stream of thought on all levels of consciousness in a human's mind. When I play my Stratocaster, passed down to me by my grandfather, I feel my essence flow from my fingertips through the strings, resulting in vibrations that then travel through the body and neck of Strat and resonate with my soul until it settles, completing this beautiful cycle that is met with euphoria like no other. Okay, immediately I'm already curious on what a Stratocaster is. So I'm just writing down notes of what I'm thinking. Passed down to my grandfather. Okay, so it kind of sounds like a violin almost, something with strings. Okay, and it gives you euphoria. The time, effort, and dedication I put towards music making, playing, and understanding have been a culmination of my unique life experiences, thoughts, and desires, which are all particular to me. However, the true beauty of being a musician lies within the smiles and meanings it brings to those around you. Ever since I was very young, I've always been captivated by the energy and soul my grandpa brings to his musicianship. Every time he plays around me, even as I grow older, he wouldn't fail to bring this loving, energized feeling to playing music. He always looks like he is having a blast, and I can't help but wear a grin on my face as those chords struck me one after another. Okay, so obviously the creative side being expressed is playing the Stratocaster and being a musician. So I got that very clearly. Spending his college years in the US as a foreigner from Iran in the 60s, and despite the many hardships he faced, he found this passion and enthusiasm in music to break the language and cultural barriers he found himself up against. Every time I play guitar or sing, I am always inspired to bring that same energy my grandpa brought, to attempt to fully exercise my essence and hopefully resonate with other souls. Okay, so through music, Ashkan is exercising like a touch of his culture as well as resonating with the other soul. So like his connection is what I'm getting here. I frequently play with my band, putting together new choruses with verses, and sometimes I'll play with other friends who are also talented. I genuinely love hearing the colors fly off instruments. I find it especially miraculous to play and make music with other people. There's just something so peculiar about music and the way it brings us together. Okay, so I'm just gonna write down some notes here of what I'm seeing. All right. Oh, okay, it's just gonna be suggestion mode. All good. So observations here. Observations is that music is your creative outlet because it gives you connection to people and culture, and its creativity is being able, like, I guess having freedom to create basis off of love and I guess like being in the moment. Is this kind of like correct, Ashkan? Like this is kind of what you're trying to go for?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
The Stratocaster is a guitar.
It's a guitar. Okay, I would have looked it up if I was an admissions officer, but
Right. Do you think
okay.
I should like specify that it's a guitar or?
I think you can. It's very quickly. I would totally. I think that makes a lot of sense. Not a lot of people are going to know what a Stratocaster is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is kind of the point I'm getting from your essay, just from reading it. And my recommendation is let's just relook at the prompt, which is how do you express yourself? You already answered that very clearly. Describe how you express your creative side. I would recommend to elaborate a little bit more on how you are expressing this creatively, because yes, you are playing an instrument. That's how you're being creative, but like in more detail, do you have your own style? Like is it different from your grandpa? What makes it very unique? If you kind of get my drift.
Yeah, thanks. I think I get
Okay. And I also feel like you're talking a lot about your grandpa, and I think you can probably spend maybe 2 to 3 sentences about how he's influenced you, and this is kind of his take on it. But I want to know more about you. Like that's kind of where I'm left at, because let me just bold all the areas you talked about your grandfather. You passed down from I feel my essence flow through the strings. Okay, so passed down by my grandfather. Cool. The time ever get dedication, true beauty. Ever since I was young, I've always been captivated by the energy and soul my grandpa brings to musicianship. Every time he plays, even when I grow older, he wouldn't fail to bring this love. He's having a blast. He spent his time in Iran. He found his passion. Okay, here we go. This is a whole, let's see how many words this is. A third of your essay is about your grandpa. And I think that even though he sounds like a great guy, maybe you want to just shorten it down to 1 to 2 sentences, just so you have more room to focus on you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so spend more time discussing about your creative take. I want you to be more specific on how your style is unique. And less about grandpa. Okay. So another thing that I think that would really elevate your essay is spending more time reflecting. And what I mean by this is, why do you think this is so important? Yeah, it's a very talented thing. And also Stratocaster is like very rare. I'm sure not that many people play Stratocaster. But why do you think it's important that you keep playing the Stratocaster? Or how has the Stratocaster impacted your life outside of music? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's actually a pretty common like model for a guitar, but it's like classic.
Oh, it is. Okay, so it's like it's like a type of guitar essentially.
Yeah, it's like a certain model.
Oh, a certain model. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. So with that said, like when you are playing the guitar, like why do you think that it's so impactful in your life?
I see.
So, I mean, do you want to kind of discuss?
Oh,
We
like
can
discuss it? Oh, okay. Wait, say that again.
Yeah. So why do you think that playing the Stratocaster is so impactful on your life overall, outside of music? Like, has it taught you anything?
I guess it's taught me to stay resilient and if like if I really want to get something done, like focus. As well as just like if you don't necessarily like to do something, or if something just completely just like kind of turns you off and you don't really want to do it, like just there are other routes like you could go through to kind of
Problem solving, like critical
yeah
thinking.
yeah yeah
I love it.
and it's also taught me to like I don't know it's taught me to like cultivate meaningful like relationships as well, like not only like with like with friends and like family, and just like uh how like through guitar like you can like cultivate those things. And actually in another one of my essays, it's not like that like complete yet, but I do talk about like like just like being able to kind of cultivate those like meaningful relationships through like observing other people's like perspectives on things. But yeah, that's kind of unrelated, but
I think it makes a lot of sense. I love this. This is exactly the reflection I want to see from essays and just essays in general. So like Aiden, Sai, Soren, like these are the type of things that the admissions officers are going to want to be able to see. Like, what values are you living by? Because your experiences define your values, and the admissions officers, the point of these essays is they want to know what type of person you are coming to campus beyond your accomplishments. And for Ashkan, he's going to be bringing focus. He's going to be bringing resilience. He's going to be bringing meaningful relationships. And by interpreting it for us, Ashkan, so that could be your conclusion, pretty much, where you could probably cut this shorter, and then you can talk a little bit more about what playing the guitar means to you and why it's important, and how these values and skills are going to be beneficial for college. So that's how I think you could probably wrap it up.
all right, cool. Thanks.
Cool. Okay. Any questions on here? Okay, let's move on to your other essay. Do you want me to read this one too?
Sure.
Okay.
It's a little more fresh, but yeah.
Okay, let's go for it. Think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you've furthered this interest inside or outside the classroom. And I always like to bold it just so I know the keywords. Like, so you're going to want to talk about your academic subject. How have you furthered this interest, right? And I think the best examples are a combination of inside and outside the classroom. All right. From Aristotle to Zizek, since 8th grade, I have been intrigued by a multitude of philosophers, all of whom use different lenses through which we look at people and society. I have tried to understand a multitude of perspectives and arguments these important figures have brought into this world in the pursuit of knowledge and being able to come to my conclusions, as well as engage in discussions with all sorts of different people from different backgrounds to broaden my worldview. I've visited the works of the likes of Plato, Aristotle, okay, a good amount of folks. And by the way, I think you can probably condense it down a little bit less, Ashkan, because I think that, is your point of bringing this up to show the diversity of interest, or?
It's like to show that, yeah, there's like a lot of people I look into also, like that I know what I'm talking about.
Got it. Okay. I would say maybe you want to just put maybe 2 to 3 and then say and more, or like just because it's taking up so much space.
Right.
And
yeah,
I think they can kind of get the picture already.
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3, then say and many more, or whatever else you want to say. Hegel fascinates me with his concepts, of which he views history through the dialectic method. Ooh, I'm already intrigued. This is so cool, by the way. When students talk about their academic subject or things that inspires them, it's very clear that it inspires you if you're using verbiage that is more technical. And then usually they call it like nerding out in certain areas. So I highly recommend this. So this is great. I love this. I'm going to go ahead and bold it so we see all the stuff that you're nerding out about. More recently, I've deeply admired Karl Marx's work, his ability to invoke ruthless criticism. Here we go. And his application of Hegel's dialectic method to the material conditions of our world. I'm deeply vested in the works of psychoanalytic figures such as Freud, okay, because they bring a sort of scientific method to explain the many ways, okay, scientific method, they think our consciousness functions. I highly respect the likes of, okay, this is a lot of people. They all dig deep into the foundations of society and explore unorthodox ways of thinking that pressure us into thinking more about what we may view as incontestable truths. I always find it to be one of the highlights of my day when I can tune into the podcast I frequently called. I love this, that you have like multiple, I love that you have different sources of information. Okay. While I lose myself in the brazen hills that loom behind my neighborhood, the various ideas presented by all these different historical figures or philosophers never cease to entice me and pull me to learn about them throughout my everyday. Understanding the many different aspects of living life in this world, whether it be in the institution, economic science, social psychology, etc., through many different lenses, teaches me how I can improve, add to, and enrich not only my human experience, but add to something much greater than me. Okay, great. So these are like philosophers, right? Ashkan, like this is
Right.
philosophy is what you're interested in. So
Right.
observations. And folks, I'm gonna be doing this for all your essays where I just summarize what I think I read, because this is kind of a admissions officer's mindset. And then I'll give you some feedback on how to improve it overall. So clear interest in philosophy. Okay. And then you go into explained why, which is like the dialectic method. You like ruthless criticism, scientific method. So these are all the different technical things that Ashkan's mentioned. And you say you like it because there's different lenses to look through and enrich not only human experience, but also to something. So helps broaden outlook. So is this kind of your message, Ashkan? Am I missing anything?
Nope, pretty much got it.
Okay. So the clear value here is that Ashkan is probably someone that can have very like civilized conversations with, where he's able to express his thoughts, your thoughts, and to have like fruitful conversations with others, intellectual conversations, which is great. I think what I'm missing here is a little bit more depth, because you are touching on so many different parts of it and you're explaining all these different folks and their outlook right here. And then you go over again here. I want you to go in deeper as to why you think it's important. Like his views through dialectic method. Like, why is that so important? Like, why is that something you live by? Is that like, what is your take on it? So I'm getting a lot of you referencing others, but I'm missing that what your philosophy is, or you resonate with all these people, but why? Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah.
Okay. So I think less is more, to be honest. I think you should probably pick maybe 2, 3 max philosophers and go into it. So you can pick these. I mean, I'm just giving an example, these 3, and then you explain why each one is so interesting to you. And then I want you to connect it to how you further the inside or outside the classroom. Because you say that you are, what is it? You listen to the podcast, right? And then what else? Like, what are you doing by listening to the podcast or being interested in philosophy? Are you doing any activities or contributions or job? You get what I'm saying?
I also like read books. So
Yeah.
I guess
So like reading through, reading the books, the podcast, like what do you do about it? Do you take it a step further?
I guess I have like a lot of discussions with like people at school and friends. So yeah.
I love that. Discussions. And then how is that, how are these discussions fruitful, or why is it impactful? Why is it important to have these discussions?
Because without them, people kind of get trapped in their own bubble, including myself. And yeah.
I totally get what you're saying. It's good to have conversations about what you think is acceptable versus not. Maybe you even want to go into when you have disagreements. I'm sure there's disagreements that happen all the time when it comes to like philosophy, but is there like, what is your take or actions when it comes to having like respectful conversations? So that could even be your maybe your take on it.
Wait, could you repeat that? You cut out of it.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So what I was mentioning is, I think what could really elevate your essay is talking a little bit more about how this, how philosophy is impacting, that your interest in philosophy is impacting inside or outside the classroom. So you say that you're having conversations with your friends. When there's like disagreements, like how do you go about it? How are you able to come to either a compromise or agree to disagree, for instance? Alternatively, you can also talk about how philosophy is helpful when it comes to writing papers or forming your own opinions for school or projects outside the classroom.
I see. Yeah.
What I'm looking for, Ashkan, is like concrete examples of how philosophy has been motivating you or impacting you in your extracurriculars or activities.
I see. All right, cool. I think
Yeah. Because like think of it like your activities and extracurriculars is the evidence base of why this is your academic subject that you enjoy. Okay. So reference, activity, extracurricular that you that has been influenced by your academic interest. Okay. All right. Any questions here? Does this all make sense?
Yep. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Feel free to stay on so you can also learn from others as well. Okay. Everyone can see that I transitioned over to the Against All Odds one.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this one is from Aiden, and this topic is every person has a creative side, and it can be expressed in many ways. Problem solving, original, innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. All right. Getting ready for senior year was all I could think about. Let me zoom in for folks. My parents told me, have fun, enjoy it, because when it's over, it's over. So I've always been active growing up, staying busy with sports. But when high school hit, I knew grades and schoolwork had to be my main focus. So I limited myself on what sports I played. I stuck to mainly basketball for my first 3 years. Then came senior year and I wanted to go all out. I wanted to play football and my parents were okay with it. They said, you know what, kid, go for it, have fun. So I did. Then came tryouts, long practices, conditioning. I stuck with it. I pushed through all those long, tireless days, never-ending drills and playbooks, watching film. Then they announced that last year's starting varsity quarterback, by the way, I think you should, a lot of these abbreviations should be spelled out for these essays, but I'm not focusing too much on grammar for these essays. It's more about the message. Would be out until he could get his grades up. So then I decided to go for it. I mean, what do I have to lose? It's my last year. Talk about doubts. Everyone questioned my decision. However, I wanted to play and I had a chance to be the starting varsity quarterback. Preseason rolled right in and then our scrimmages. We had a rough start, but the coaches gave me a chance. I took in every little feedback. I never questioned their judgment, listened to all the constructive criticism, and I applied it to every practice, every game. I was focused and determined. We finished the season second place in our league, took my team to first round of playoffs, felt like something out of a movie. A first year starting quarterback, varsity quarterback. I was even in the newspaper for athlete of the week. That's awesome. Where they talked about a nearly perfect game, talked about my passes, parents in the stands, complimented my skills to my parents. Such an amazing feeling. Sadly, we lost. Then one of the coaches pulls me to the side and tells me something I will never forget. Kid, no one thought you could do this, but you brought this team this far. You should be proud of yourself. No one believed you could even do this. I too had my doubts, but I knew this was something I wanted, and I was willing to do whatever it took to win. I always think of the funny quote from the Talladega Nights movie, good movie, with the character Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. It makes me laugh every time I hear or say it, but it makes me think you have to be willing to put yourself out there, put in the time, dedication to be great. I don't want to be average. I want to step out of my comfort zone and against all odds, do whatever it takes to be great. That's great. No pun intended. So thank you for submitting this, Aiden. Let's go ahead and summarize what you just wrote here. So, your let's see, your creative side artistically. Okay, so I would say you're answering it by your innovative thinking and problem solving, and because you're overcoming challenges on the field and also even in believing in yourself. Is that right, Aiden?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like problem solving, innovative thinking, but I mean, these are just to name a few. Or was there like another like creative side about you that you leveraged in here?
Kind of, yeah, like I'm just like a go-getter, you know? Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so go-getter, believed in myself, against all odds. Okay. So what do you think is your like special, like unique creative side when you're a quarterback? Like, what do you think you do differently that made you successful?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah, like, what do you think makes you unique as a quarterback that made you so successful?
I think like I tried like getting close with like, you know, like all my teammates, you know, like I had a bond with them. I would always like, cause like I knew like they had my backs, you know, so I tried getting close with them, and I did have like a lot of friends on there, so like they had my back, and
You built trust, it sounds
yeah,
like.
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so I like the way you laid things out. To be honest, like sports essays are very common, but a way to stand out is the way you connect your values and your message in an uncommon way to the essay itself. So with this essay, you're trying to get across that you're tenacious, you go for things against all odds, and you got there through trust and determination. And I'm not sure if this is the best prompt for this essay. I actually can think of other prompts that might be a better match for you. But you correct me if I'm wrong. I think that it might be a better match for maybe your greatest talent or skill, because your greatest talent or skill is like building trust and pushing forward against odds. Alternatively, it could also fit for leadership, because as quarterback, I believe you have to be a really strong leader, and that's by building trust. And you can probably even fit it for number 8, which is beyond what has already been shared in your application. What do you believe makes you a strong candidate for admission for the UCs? Which is kind of like a free for all, which can be, well, I'm a strong candidate because I'm tenacious, or like I go against all odds, but I still be able to push through, and I'm able to build trust with others. So I think that might be a better match, but you let me know if like I'm maybe interpreting your essay in a different way.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So what prompt do you think might be a better match?
The third one.
The third one?
Yeah.
I think so too. Okay, cool stuff. I think, yeah, it really answers it. I'm just going to put it here. I think this might be the best match for you. And say that you are answering this one, right? It's your greatest talent at school. How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? I would recommend that you go in a little bit deeper about how you build trust with your teammates. So instead of like, yeah, I build a bond, but like, how do you do that?
Okay.
On how you build bond. And I would also recommend that taking it a step further, how is building bonds and trust and believing in yourself helpful for outside of football as well. So that way you can kind of connect it to the bigger picture of like the lessons you've learned. Okay, awesome. Any thoughts or any questions here, Aiden?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. But I mean, how cool is that? Congrats on making the paper and like first time quarterback. It's a lot of pressure and all that. So good job. Okay, does anyone have other essays? Or if not, I can go through some of my other students, how their first draft looks and to like the stages of how they've edited it to completion. I'm sorry, I think I probably cut out earlier, but I was just saying, like, does anyone have other essays or questions or thoughts, or if they're brainstorming another essay and you want to talk it through it, we can do that too. I'm sorry, am I online still or?
No, you are audible.
Okay,
you are audible.
sorry. Okay, if there's nothing else, like no other questions, I can go through some essays of my past and current students who are doing like draft 0, and then I have the progression of what a completed essay looks like. Would you all be interested in seeing that?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool.
So far it has been good, Tiffany. It's been a good one. Yeah.
Sorry?
So far it has been good.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, and I apologize about my internet connection. I will talk to AT&T about it. Okay, so I have, I think what's helpful is I go over what the majors students are interested in too, because it's not necessary for Aiden or Ashkan for you to know what major, because some students are undecided. But if you do know what you want to major in and it's a very competitive major, I highly recommend for students to write about why you're interested in that major in your essays, okay? So I actually have a student here. Can everyone see this now? It says it's a most significant challenge. That one.
Yeah.
Okay. So this student, he started off with a pretty long first draft, and it was 583 words. And I always say, don't worry about how long it is first. Don't worry about the intro. Don't worry about the conclusion. Just write, because all we care about is the message. And that's why for today, when I talked to Aiden and Ashkan, that's what I was focusing on. Your draft 4 and 5, that's when you want the grammar and everything to start really shaping up. Okay. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to read through the essay, and then I'm going to go through my feedback, and then I'll go through the next draft and see how they iterated it, okay? Life at times can often be, this is the challenges prompt, by the way. Life at times can often be likened to a toppling of dominoes. One small event shepherds a succession of alternate sequential events. In life, this can occasionally lead an individual to an unexpected place, finding for themselves an unforeseen destiny. In my case, it has been twice that I observed a significant occurrence of this domino effect, each time leading me to the same place. Here and now, filled with purpose and strength and resolve, faced with an unquenchable drive to pursue something greater than myself, I am faced with my calling of becoming a nurse. So I already know, just looking at this, that there's 2 things that I need to look out for with this student. They are interested in sharing more about why they're interested in becoming a nurse, likely. All right. At the age of 7, I began dancing at the San Francisco Ballet after being awarded a scholarship that allowed me to train at the company school. I spent the following 10 years dancing across stages and allocated nearly all of my waking hours outside of school to my training. Being a professional dancer resulted in a profound understanding of movement mechanics. This, along with being a natural science geek, solidified my comprehension of how muscles, bones, and ligaments work together to produce movement. So essentially, student says they're interested in nursing, and now they're giving us insights into how they started ballet, and then they got interested in science. So it's pretty clear already why they're interested. In my 7th year of being a dancer, I picked up weight training in an effort to support and maintain my physical ability as a performer. Instantly, I fell in love with the results of lifting weights. This very love cast me down the rabbit hole of exercise science. For 12 years thereafter, I would spend many free hours of my day reading books, articles, research, and videos on all things related to human body and movement. It was my obsession. Unfortunately, I could not simply spend all day reading and learning. I had a family to support. Okay, wow, it's leaving us to a transition. Only a few months after my 18th birthday, my daughter Cadence was born. My life narrative was recast in an instant. My daughter became my world and my only focus. It was as if a switch flipped in my mind. Everything suddenly made sense, and I began to view the world from an entirely new perspective. In order to support my new family, I took up personal training. Being a personal trainer was a way I was able to apply my knowledge in movement science while simultaneously making income. However, during the course of being a personal trainer, one of my primary clients was a physician who worked in the ER. And for quite a few years, the doctor and I spent an hour a day, 3 days a week, strength training. We would talk about the life of medical professionals, and despite the negatives, I was totally entranced. I felt that my desire to further educate myself in the field of science now involved a broader scope than mere muscles and motion. I wanted to help others in a way that my client did by helping others through major life struggles, and use my knowledge and love of science to do so. It is because of this that nursing has become my path, and for the last years, I've been working tirelessly in school to take the steps necessary to pursue this calling. Thus, it is undisputable that my life has steadily been inching towards a career in nursing since the moment I stepped foot in the ballet studio. This purpose is only solidified by my daughter's existence and my determination to build a life for her. I'm ready to learn how to use the tools of science and medicine to create a better life for myself and those around me. So they went from, hey, these are the two reasons why I'm interested in this major, but they're also answering, this is a, what were some of the challenges that they had to go through, right? They couldn't do ballet anymore. With this daughter, they had to do personal training, and then it led them to be interested. They met someone that worked in the ER, and that solidified their interested in the health field. And then they rounded out again, like challenges leads to like revelations, pretty much. It's pretty long first draft, but I thought it was really clear on why they're interested in the field and what motivates them. I think what could have done better is share what they've done outside of school to prepare for nursing. So hence, like, yes, they talked to this ER doctor, but like, what else have they done? Once you've demonstrated this interest in the field, then we reduce the word count itself. Okay, so let's look at their other draft. I won't read through everything again for efficiency, but I want everyone to see, like, this is the type of feedback I usually give, which is after the first draft, once you get all your ideas in, now we need to make sure that the structure flows. So I've noticed that he already gave the reflections up top. So I recommended to him to actually move the paragraph for the reflections, save it towards the end, because it's similar to like a movie, right? Like if you're watching a movie and someone's like, oh, like, these are all the things that happened to me, or like, you won't believe all the dominoes that fell. And this is why I want to be a nurse. Like it just starts off so soon. Is there any way that you can kind of walk them through it without giving them all the answers of what you've learned up top? And then I also want them to explain how their pain impacted the academics in a negative light, because that's part of the prompt. If you've encountered any challenges, how did it affect your academics? That's literally the prompt itself. And he didn't quite explain much about the academic portion, besides that he's interested in nursing. And then what's interesting is you need to think about what all 4 of your UC essays are going to look like. When I was reading all of his essays in one packet, he talked about nursing in 2 of them in a lot of detail. So for this first draft, he actually talked a lot about nursing, and we decided to just reduce it. So think about that, like Aiden, Ashkan, when you're writing all 4 of your essays, if you're repeating yourself in any of your essays, that's a sign that you need to think about another angle or pick a new topic or pick a new prompt, because it's better to show different sides of yourself in these essays than to be repetitive. Okay. Okay, sorry, I just noticed that there were some comments and I want to make sure I read it through it. All right, and then right here, and then you just need him to reflect. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what his latest draft looks like with all of the feedback that we just talked about, right? When I was 7 years old, I started ballet and I was offered a full scholarship to the San Francisco Ballet School by scouts who came searching for talent at my elementary school. I spent 3 to 6 hours a day after school and up to 10 hours per day on weekends practicing. Actually, let me look at this one because I actually just proofread it for him today. And it looks so messy because I left a lot of like comments, but this is probably a little bit easier for you to see how I proofread. When I was 7 years old, and here when he said I spent 3 to 6 hours a day after school and up to 10 hours per day on weekends practicing, I recommended to him to just round it out to hours per week and then instead save that space and add a line about how you felt. Or did you love it? Did you hate it? Because I'm left with like, okay, you did it, but so what? I want to know more about you and your thoughts. When I quit at the age of 18 to focus on my education, my new sedentary lifestyle brought chronic back pain. Because remember, this is about his significant challenge. And he's writing about back pain. I began searching for ways to heal my body. I frequented orthopedic specialists, chiropractors, physiotherapists. However, the relief was only temporary. In trying to find solutions, I eventually started bodybuilding with weightlifting. And this helped to relieve some of my pain. I asked him to just like condense it just so we're saving space. And then I had him remove a sentence here regarding his enthusiasm for weightlifting, because that's not really the point of this essay. It's more of like, how did you deal with the pain? How did it impact you? To save space. However, I did not foresee that bodybuilding would eventually lead to the return of my back pain worse than ever. In time, I experimented to find the perfect moderate regimen to alleviate my pain. So we know stopping ballet caused chronic back pain. So he decided to start working out more, body weightlifting, and then eventually found a regimen that worked for his back pain. This lesson in moderation for the sake of well-being has stuck with me. I was in my first year of college when the pain first appeared. The pain was so severe I couldn't focus in class. I had to stop attending school to concentrate on my recovery. By properly timing my exercise regimen, I was eventually able to find ways to remain pain-free through my class hours. So he's talking about the impacts on his academics very clearly. As a nurse, I would like to combine my experience as a patient suffering from chronic pain with the scientific and clinical knowledge of a nurse. I would like to learn and apply those holistic approaches to healing people and teach patients the skills they require to support themselves. So this essay, he only has 2 sentences about nurse. As his first essay, there was like paragraphs on paragraphs about it. So we just condensed it. I have a long-lasting struggle with chronic pain. However, chronic pain every day, it permeates through my consciousness and it affects my daily life. But ironically, in some ways, it's shaped me for the better. I love this line and reflection. The capacity to feel pain is one of the human body's primary defense mechanisms for maintaining its integrity and defending itself from damage. For me, it's been my adversary, like an inescapable shadow on my nervous system. Initially, I felt as if feeling this pain was gatekeeping my path to a successful life, but it has been the skills I developed in my fight against it and that have reshaped my perspective for the better. So his lesson and reflection here is pain isn't always bad. It's taught him to have more discipline, regimen, and just being appreciative overall of being not in pain at times. So it's a really good reflection and it's a very unique take on pain. So let's make sure he actually answered the prompt, right? Sorry, there's a little bit. All right, describe the most significant challenge you face, which is chronic pain. He answered that. What's the steps he's taken to overcome this challenge? He looked into like chiropractors, saw tons of specialists, he worked out, and then he found a perfect system that worked for him to prevent him from having pain during school hours. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? Very clearly, it was so painful, he couldn't focus. And then it also led him to be interested in nursing. One thing I want to call out here is this student and I were very aware of the possible red flags. So it might be a red flag that admissions officers read this and think, how is this student going to focus in school if they're in pain? And he's made it very clear. We were being proactive and saying, hey, he is able to focus in class. So he can, it says right here, I was eventually able to find ways to remain pain-free through my class hours. So we just added that line to make sure, he added that line to make sure that it is answering any red flags that might possibly come up. Yeah, so overall, this is draft 3 for this student. I think one more from him, he's probably gonna be done. I think on average, a lot of these essays, it just depends on your writing style. If you're gonna be changing up your topping and all that, it can take anywhere from maybe 3 if you're really dedicated and you know exactly what you wanna write about, all the way up to, I've seen students do like draft 8. So it really just depends. I know time is ticking. The UC applications are due in about 2 weeks, which I highly recommend that everyone submits your application at least a few days before, since the portal sometimes crashes. That's happened before. But yeah, any questions on this this whole webinar and or these prompts I just went over?
This is very helpful, Tiffany. At least gives us a intro into how someone would review the drafts, right? So this is really helpful.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Awesome. Yeah, so that's my main feedback. I personally like when students have titles on their essays. It's optional. So Aiden and Ashkan, if you have time, think about a title that might make sense. Okay, awesome. I hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you for tuning in. And you got this.